On today's episode, we sit down with Antonia Rose, a certified peer support specialist and leader of Schrank's Clubhouse Women's Support Group. Our conversation today includes topics such as accountability in the healing journey, the power of giving back to others who have been in a similar situation, and Antonia's future ambitions with the Clubhouse. If you or somebody you know is struggling with an eating disorder and are in need of help, we will provide links in the description down below so that you may find the help and support suited to your needs. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and it is my pleasure to introduce Antonia Rose. Hello, Antonia.
Hi, Carlos.
Hello. I just want to get straight into it. I just want to ask you what your story is, and just what your story is for us today.
So today I was going to talk about my recovery and my eating disorder recovery. I didn't always know I had an eating disorder. I knew that I had issues with food, and I always was very from a very young age, from like teenager, very aware of my size and aware of what I look like. It was very important for me to look good because I needed affirmations. I didn't get a lot of affirmations from my mom when I was growing up. I
Yeah.
didn't get a lot of, you're doing a great job, that kind of stuff. So for me, I really focused in on my looks when I was a teenager. That was very important. And I was thin. I was very thin. And I got lots of compliments. And so that made me feel good. That sort of like is what helped my self esteem. My eating was. It was different because I had two houses. My parents were divorced. And so I lived with my mother most of the time. And I was responsible at a young age to make sure that, certain dinners got put from the freezer to the microwave or whatever. I don't even know if we had microwaves at that time. We didn't even have microwaves at that time, in the oven. And, we had to do that. I had to do that for my sister because my mom, she went to school and she went to work, and she didn't get home till really late at night. So we didn't have like regular like family dinners. It was all very scattered. But then when I went to go stay with my father, my stepmother, she was very motherly. She was the kind that baked bread, that made 3 meals a day. We sat at the dinner table, ate together, breakfast together. And so that's where I learned what real eating was like.
Yeah.
When I was with my dad.
Yeah.
That's what normal eating was like, and that sort of is how I was able to be a better mother and learn what to do for my kids, because I really didn't have a clue growing up. My eating was so sporadic, and sometimes I probably didn't eat. I know there were times me and my sister would scrounge up money to try to find food. And so if we didn't, then I suppose we didn't eat,
Yeah.
And but when I got older, I got pregnant at a young age. I was 21, and I um, I I wasn't gaining weight like I thought I should. I was young. I didn't understand a lot about pregnancy, and I thought I should just be gaining, gaining, gaining. And so I went to the health food store, and I got like these really high protein drinks and powders and stuff to help put on the weight. Then I gained a lot of weight, and after I had the baby, very soon after, a couple weeks after, my father was said, "I'll watch the baby for you. You go out shopping." And I thought, well, I'll go out and I'll buy clothes, buy some new clothes. And I started off in the weight I was before the baby, thinking, oh, I'll be able to get in, and I wasn't. I was in that fitting room for hours, just going size up, size up, size.
Wow.
Just, it was like, it was very degrading. And that was my first time that I started to have body image issues.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, and I didn't feel good about myself. And
This must have been a very big, like,
awareness.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was. It was an awareness. It was like, now I'm not that young, thin girl that I was, that people are going to look at me and give me compliments for. Now, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about the way I felt about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the next years doing a lot of things to try to lose the weight that probably weren't the best.
Mm-hmm.
I used diet pills. I got myself really sick to where I ended up in the hospital at one point from the diet pills. I'd come out of that, and then I'd go a few more years eating, and I would start trying to fill my feelings with food. And I
Mm-hmm.
would go the other end and start binging.
Yeah.
Like, instead of starving, I was binging and trying to like eat and eat and eat as much as I could. And I would eat unhealthy things.
Mm-hmm.
And this went on till I gained so much weight that I was at an obese state.
Mm-hmm.
And I again was feeling my self image was down.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a downward spiral. So then I did more things to try, more diet pills, more things to try to lose the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where I would really just like not eat. I would starve myself and get so thin
Mm-hmm.
that people would look at me and say, think I was sick. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And this was my the way I'd lived for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And
So there was like a fluctuation, always,
fluctuation.
like always, either you were on one end of the spectrum or the other. It was
Exactly.
never a balance.
There was no balance in
Mm-hmm.
my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't matter whether I was thin
Mm-hmm.
or whether I was really overweight.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel good about myself, because when I
Mm-hmm.
could see that I looked like I was sick,
Yeah.
and it would be like I also still wasn't happy with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I couldn't, there was something inside me
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fill.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the eating disorder. It was the eating disorder that was taking over my life, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it. However, I did have a doctor that had diagnosed me with anorexia.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't tell me. What happened was, I was looking through my chart one day on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking at like all my diagnoses, and there's anorexia, and I'm like, why is that there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's confusing.
but
Yeah.
I never asked her.
Uh-huh.
I just sort of tucked that aside, and that's when I was like about 30. I'm 60 now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 30, it was like, I'm not going to look at that. I'm not even going to ask about it. I
Yeah.
have no idea why it's on my chart.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what it meant. I was like, I really wanted to just not focus in on that. And so I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really acknowledge that I had a problem until I moved to Central Valley about almost 4.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved here to take care of my grandmother. And at the time I was taking care of her, there were cooks here and hospice workers and people that were taking care of her too.
Mm-hmm.
So we had our meals pretty much taken care of.
Yeah.
I didn't have to cook. I started to gain weight. When I got here, I was very thin.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to gain weight, and a decent weight, not too much. I just was eating healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And taking care of my grandmother. And then she passed away 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when she passed away, everyone in this house left.
Mm-hmm.
The hospice workers left, the cooks left, my family left,
Yeah.
and I was alone.
Mm-hmm.
I was isolated for the first time. I had left my family 4 years ago, so I had come here and I had no family.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids were far away, and I started to isolate in the house.
Mhm.
I started to not cook dinners because I didn't want to cook, and I didn't want to clean, and I didn't want. I felt that there was a part of me that just didn't feel. I guess I was worth it.
Yeah.
That to make a meal for,
Mhm.
and then when I would make the meals, I just could not get them down.
Yeah.
And so I started this heavy restricting of food, and I lost a lot of weight. And every time I'd go to the doctor, I'd lose more weight. And I started to get concerned, and I knew what I was doing was wrong, that wasn't right, I felt bad about myself, but I didn't know how to stop.
Yeah.
And I was in the house. I wasn't going out anywhere. I wasn't talking to anyone, and I was binging a lot of TV, and I was watching a reality show that I had been following for some time. And one of the girls on the show I had noticed was thin, and I really liked her. I thought she was really funny. And one day they came on the show and they said that she had passed away. And I was like, oh, wow, because she
Wow.
was so young.
Yeah.
And she was probably in her 20s. And they said, if you know of anybody that has an eating disorder, please get help.
Yeah.
And that's when that was my awakening. At that point, it was like I remembered what the doctor had written in my chart.
Yeah.
I knew how I felt about myself. I heard the word eating disorder. And then I realized somebody died from it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, she died.
It all finally came. Yeah.
It hit that you
Yeah.
can die from this.
Yeah.
You can die. And I didn't want that to happen to me. I didn't want to be that girl. I didn't want to be the girl that they found out after my family found out afterwards that I had an eating disorder and I didn't get help.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything about it. So I realized I had an eating. That's my moment of clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got a problem,
Yeah.
and I started talking about it. I talked to my sister. I talked to Gwen, who I work with. I talked with my doctor. I talked with my therapist, my psychiatrist. I told everybody I believe I have an eating disorder, and everybody listened, but they really didn't know what to do for me. I could not afford treatment because I'm on a low income. So it was like, well, it's not like I can go to a treatment center. What am I going to do? How am I going to get help? There was no help. I live in an area where there really were no resources. And so this was in the summer, and I went a whole 6 months later of I don't know what I'm going to do. And I found a treatment center in Sacramento that would take scholarships. You could write like an essay and maybe get in.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I could write my story. I could write it out, and maybe I could get in that way. So that was my idea. And then, but then in January, we started training for peer support specialists, certified peer support specialist. And in my training, they said that we needed to go to 20 self-help groups. And so it could be any self-help groups.
Yeah.
And so I went through the list, and I came across a 12-step group that dealt with eating disorders. And so that first day of training, I went to a meeting that day. Training ended at 2. I went to a meeting at 3 on Zoom.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm going to check this out.
Yeah.
And I have been going ever since. And that was, I believe it was January 7th of last year. So it's been over a year. And the 12-step group, I believe, is what has saved me, because it really has been a lifeline. It's been a connection to other people that are going through the same thing. It has a spiritual program, which I believe I was brought to this 12-step program by my own higher power, my own God, my own spirit that moved me here. I believe that everything that happened to me in my life happened for a reason, and it got me to this point so that I could come into the program, work it, find recovery. And the thing that I like about my 12-step program is that it does focus on balance. Like you said, balance.
Yeah.
It's about balance. It's not about binging or restricting, or it's not even about the food, it's about the feelings. It's about dealing with your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with life on life's terms,
Mm-hmm.
and not doing it alone,
Yeah.
because I was alone
Mm-hmm.
and I was isolating.
Yeah.
And isolation, I believe, is one of the biggest enemies of this my eating disorder,
Yeah.
because when I isolate, I don't talk about how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't get out what's going on, and then that's those are the things that cause me to go to behaviors that I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to go to.
Yeah.
And then the one thing about recovery is possible, because I have not restricted or binged in, I don't even know when. It's been some time. I do have a balance in my life now where I find a peace. I have peace
Mm-hmm.
even when, and my life isn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of turmoil going on and things, problems and issues that I have to deal with,
Yeah.
but I don't restrict or binge over them or eat over them.
Mm-hmm.
I I've learned how to live in a sense of peace.
Yeah. I think that's uh, taking on that mindset that the things that have happened haven't happened necessarily to you, but more importantly for you. And talking about isolation, it was an isolation period after your grandmother died that you hit that clarity came to you after a while. And to me, it's funny how it's like you're put in that sometimes in life you're put in that isolation where you're alone, but sometimes that's where you find the thing,
Hmm.
the thing that the clarity, or maybe
Yes.
the light bulb moment that goes off. Obviously, sustained a long sustained amount of time like in isolation doesn't, I don't think, would benefit anybody.
Hmm.
But sometimes it's that little bit that helps you get there. um for you, what did reaching out for help, what did that look like to you on your journey for recovery?
When I first reached out for help, in when you go to when I went to my 12-step program,
Hmm.
it's like on Zoom,
Yeah.
right? So you're not in person, but the nice thing is that at the end of one of the meetings, there is always like time for sharing. People can share
Hmm.
after the meeting is over,
Yeah.
and people will raise their hand if they're willing to help another person be
Hmm.
there for a newcomer.
Yeah.
And that first meeting I had gone to, it was a speaker meeting,
Hmm.
and the lady that I listened to, it was so interesting because she had almost like my whole story, my childhood story. I
Hmm.
felt very connected to her,
Hmm.
and I was, and after the meeting, they asked if anybody was willing to work with newcomers, and she raised her hand.
Hmm.
And people put out their phone numbers, in the chat and stuff, and she had put her number out. And so I took it,
Hmm.
and I thought, I'm going to ask her to help me.
Yeah.
And I did. And it was probably the best thing I did was getting another person to help me work the program, because having that one person that's already gone through it,
Hmm.
already gone through the program, already been in recovery for some time,
Hmm.
was helpful, because when you're first starting off, you don't know anything,
Hmm.
and it's like, so it's one thing to go to meetings, but it's another thing to really reach out
Yeah.
and connect with somebody at that meeting.
Hmm.
And the thing I like about 12 step is that people are always very welcoming to newcomers.
Hmm.
Newcomers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that there was. I always thought 12 steps was just for like AA,
Uh-huh.
like Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know that the structure of 12 step can be put into,
Different areas.
yeah,
Yeah.
different areas. Yeah. How does that reaching out for help? Because I'm a type of person that I'm very reluctant to reach out for help. Like there's a lot of resistance inside of me that says like, okay, there's something, maybe you have a weight on you that you should probably let go of. But I find like an inner resistance to go out and like, hey, can I get what is the saying, like can I borrow a minute every time or something, or
Mm-hmm.
for me it is like I know there might be other people out there too that have that inner resistance. Was that the same with you, Or did you, after your your clarity moment, do you go, okay, no, this is something I have to, and you go?
At first, before I had the clarity moment, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't eating. I was
Yeah.
losing weight. I was like, this is not right. I wasn't happy. Nothing was making me happy, and I knew I needed to get help, but I didn't want to at
Yeah.
first. And I didn't want to because I was scared. I didn't know what help meant. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know if I was going to have to go to a treatment center. Some people do have to go to treatment centers. I didn't know if I was going to have to and leave my house,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to. And I didn't know what that was going to be like. I had no idea. So I was scared, and I also there was a inner intuition that knew that once I dealt with this eating disorder, I was going to have to deal with feelings. I knew it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to deal with feelings. I don't want to do feelings.
This is why I'm doing this is why I'm doing the eating.
So, yeah. But then once I got that moment of clarity with, watching that TV show and finding out you could die, I was like, no. Then it was like, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
I'll do anything I have to, even if it is treatment or, whatever it entails. If somebody could just tell me what it is, I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
Just tell me what to do. Unfortunately, it took a long time for me to find my place to what to do, but I did, and like I said, I think everything happens for a reason. I probably went through those 6 months of just coming to terms with, this is what you're going to do. You're going to get to a place where you're so desperate you will do anything to get help.
Yeah. Whenever you look at it from hindsight, right? What did you look at and go, wow, I can't believe I've done that?
Yeah.
Or like, why have I not done this yet?
Yeah.
Or something
Well,
like that.
when I first came in the program, I was so new. I didn't even know how to eat, really, because I had been, people were taking care of me for so long, and then it was like, how do I cook for myself? How do I eat? I didn't even realize that when you get hungry, you eat. That's a basic need.
Yeah.
Eating is a basic need. So when you're hungry, you eat.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, what? Eat right now? But is it time?
Yeah.
And it's been 2 hours.
Yeah.
And, all these thoughts going through my head, which that's not typical. That's the disordered thoughts that were go through my head.
Yeah.
And so when I first came in the program, I was like, what do I do? And the lady that I had asked to help me, she was like, if you want, you can use me as an accountability partner. And so I literally, when I first came in, I'd call her every day and leave her a message and let her know what I ate at the end of the day. And that was my accountability, so that I was eating.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, oh, well, I'm going to have to eat because I'm going to have to let her know what I ate at the end of the day.
Can't
so
show up
you
with
can't
nothing.
skip
Yeah.
a lunch.
Yeah.
And I was like skipping lunches. I was like skipping meals. I was like, I wasn't eating regularly. I was just like, and so it was like, I need to be accountable. And it took me, I did that for a long time in the program. And I remember saying to somebody when I was doing it, when my sponsor, I called her my sponsor, she left and went on vacation. And I was like, well, who am I going to tell what I'm going to eat to now? So another friend in the program said, you can tell me. Just text it to me. And I said, but when am I not going to have to do this anymore? And she's like, you will. You're going to get to a place where you're going to do it for yourself. You're not going to have to do it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the next time my sponsor left on a vacation, I was like, I don't have to cut anybody else. I do not have to get somebody else to tell.
Yeah.
I can do this because I'm eating.
Yeah.
I'm eating every day. I'm eating. I don't need to do it for. First, I was doing it for my sponsor. I was doing it for her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat for her. But then it was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm eating for me because I need to eat.
Yeah.
I need to eat when I get hungry, and so I have learned to take care of myself, to take care of me, because I'm worth it. I'm not going to do the same behaviors that I did when after my grandmother died, because I didn't think I was worth it to cook a meal. No, I if I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat. And so that recovery is big. Those are called milestones in our recovery. Big milestones. I don't have to do that anymore. I
Yeah.
don't have to let somebody know I can. I'm on my own.
Yeah.
I grew up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you ever think that you'd be in a place where you'd be having to track, like, uh, basically your meals, not from like maybe like a fitness perspective, but just like I have to be accountable for eating, in a
No,
way.
I didn't. And
Uh-huh.
that's the one thing I do want to mention about the program I'm in is that there is no counting.
Yeah.
There is no counting. There's no counting. I have not even weighed myself in over a year. I
Yeah.
don't even know what I weigh, because it's those kinds of things, the counting, the measuring, how much you're exercising, all of those kinds of things that you focus on doesn't bring you peace and balance.
Uh-huh.
So that's why the peace and balance comes from just finding your own inner wisdom, your own inner strength, your own higher power, connecting with other people,
No doubt.
knowing you're not alone, and working the program.
Is that one of the major ways in which you now see yourself differently?
Um,
And are there other ways in which you see yourself differently now?
I see myself differently because I'm not so much centered on myself and my own needs. One of the things that I've learned is to be of service to others and to be there to help others, and to do what I can to, even like I lead meetings to help run the meetings better. Anything I can to get out of me to fulfill a higher need and a higher purpose, is helps me in my recovery. And I wasn't always so like that. I was more self-centered, thinking about me, my problems, who's going to console me, who's going to love me, all. I don't do that. And now it's, no, what can I do for you? What can I do for others? And that's been a big change. And I know the program has been helpful in that, in helping me see that.
That's very interesting. Why do you think that, or where do you think that change happened? What were like some of the steps to help you to change that?
I
that
think it was
mindset?
just working the program, and I had to let go of a lot of hurts and resentments, and forgive people that. When I came in the program, I thought, "Oh, there is no way I will ever forgive this one person."
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't, because I've been wronged.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that I can get that forgiveness.
Yeah.
But I have.
Yeah.
I have forgiven that person. I was able to go through, and let go of, see where my part was in it, and where I could be a better person. And in reality, there are going to be people that are going to be mean to me and that aren't going to do what I want. But I have to accept that I'm just totally powerless over other people and places and things, and focus in on what I can do. What can I do for me to take care of me? I don't have to be abused by certain people. I don't have to put myself in situations that are harmful, but I can let go of past hurts and regrets and forgive. I can do that.
Was that something you expected, like as an outcome, or like something
No.
you thought you'd have to do?
No, I didn't. I did not expect any of that. That came with hard work through working the program in this last year, and but when I came in, I was just so desperate that I thought, I'll do anything. And no, forgiveness of people, no, that did not come into my mind, that was going to have to be part of my recovery.
Yeah.
When I first started. But as I went through, I came to realize what was needed, of what I needed to do to find my own peace. Because really, when you don't forgive somebody, you're the one that doesn't have the peace.
Yeah.
at least I didn't.
Yeah. That seems like, from what I've like the information that I've gathered, it seems like a very like vital, maybe I will say a vital piece in anybody, in most people's healing journeys. Um, we will all get hurt by something or someone,
Hmm.
and that's something. If we decide to carry resentment, anger, animosity, those negative feelings, it does weigh down on us a lot, and it does affect us in our ability to find peace, along with whatever else you might be dealing with. But that on its own, which one do you think came first? That you was it going to the recovery program, and then that forgiveness element? So was it like recovery and then forgiveness, or was it like I'm in the recovery, forgiveness, and then like the rest?
It was get into
Mm-hmm.
recovery, and that was like my main focus. Like let's figure out this eating disorders. Let's save my life. Let's get myself, to a place where I'm stable,
Yeah.
basically,
Uh huh.
and then as I was working the program, I'd say within a few months, then I started working. Start working. There's steps that you work, and in those steps, that's where I started finding, seeing, okay, there there's this issue in my life. I've got these resentments,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to have to come to a place of forgiveness. And I literally, it didn't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just like I'm going to look at these resentments and, oh, now I'm going to forgive. I mean, I was literally saying a prayer and lighting a candle every single day
Yeah.
for a while, like, help me get to this place.
Mm.
Because it took effort.
Mm-hmm.
Recovery takes effort. You can't just sit back and let it happen. You do have to, you have to find a higher power, a higher purpose, a God, something to help you navigate
Mm-hmm.
through the recovery, and and through that you find forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Aside from what your eating disorder look like, what might eating disorder look like in somebody maybe who isn't aware of it?
Well, like for me, I know there was the restricting, there was the binging, there was the disordered thoughts. The
Mm-hmm.
disordered thoughts are like, the thoughts that, you don't look good enough,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to eat,
Mm-hmm.
you need to stuff your feelings with food, all these kinds of thoughts that are negative. So you got your disordered thoughts, and then you get the eating disorder where you are doing your behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
the behaviors that, uh, you know, um, you know, some people will make themselves throw up. Some people will make themselves restrict. Some people will binge.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're having those kinds of distorted thoughts and behaviors, those are signs of like having an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But really, nobody can really come to that conclusion
Mm-hmm.
unless it's themselves,
Yeah.
right? You have to sort of come to that conclusion within yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and see that you're not happy, because
Mm-hmm.
you're not when you're binging, restricting, and purging. You're not happy.
Yeah.
You're miserable, and when you feel bad about how you look, then you're not in a sense of okay with yourself.
Yeah.
So those are all the disordered thoughts and behaviors.
Mm-hmm. You already answered the question, but maybe you can elaborate more on it. You already like touched on the question. How does helping others help you?
It does help to get out of myself. I just recently started working with somebody else too, and it has been so beneficial for me, because it's like to be able to help somebody else when the way I was helped when I first came in the
Mm-hmm.
program is, I can't even explain. It's such it feels like you're giving back. It feels like you're helping in your own recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
it does. It helps me in my own recovery to be able to work with another person,
Mm-hmm.
to call a newcomer and say, how are you doing? Just how are you doing? If I see a newcomer puts their number on and says, I really could use a phone call,
Mm-hmm.
call them and say, how are you? And just listen,
Uh-huh.
just listen. Those kinds of things help my recovery, help me be better.
Mm-hmm.
It helps me to listen to other people. It helps me to be there for them, and it helps me to just be a part of the community.
Mm-hmm. Serving the community that helped you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting out of me.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Do you have any funny like stories like throughout that you might have experienced throughout your healing journey?
Um, I don't really have, I was trying to think, I don't really have any funny stories. I mean,
Mm.
I know that for me, when I came in the program, I was so gung ho to like be a part of, because like when I was a child, it's like I wanted that affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like when I came in the program, it's like, well, I want to be a part of this group. There's this one group I go to. It's my home group.
Mm.
It's at 6 o'clock in the morning every morning,
Mm.
and but it's a big group. There's like sometimes 90 people on the group on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on this group, and so but I love the women.
Mm.
It's a women's group,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just for women. And but there are groups for men too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's open groups, but this one's women. And I wanted so bad to like. They would talk about it being their home group, and I'd be like, "Well, I want it to be my home group."
Mm-hmm.
So well, how can I do this? And I share in meetings, but it's like I wanted to be more part of it. And they had a business meeting one day after the meeting, so I went to the business meeting, and they were electing officials
Mm-hmm.
for the business meeting,
Yeah.
and nobody was raising their hand. Nobody.
Yeah.
And they said, we need somebody to chair this meeting.
Uh-huh.
Lead it. I raised my hand. I'm like, I'll do it. I'm like, I was like, this will get me a part of this meeting.
Yeah.
This will get me to be a part of if I'm chairing the business meeting, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Mm.
But I had no idea about business meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and they run on Robert's rules, and they, you know, and I did not know it was a 2-year commitment either. I did not. I just found out it was a 2-year commitment like a couple months ago. I've been
Yeah.
doing it almost a year. I was like, oh, I go, how long do I do this for?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, it's a 2-year commitment.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I don't, I know I would not have signed up
Yeah.
when I was so new. I was like 3 months in the program. I was 2 years. That's a long time. But it's been funny because I've had some blunders at my business meetings,
Mm.
and it's like people will say, "Don't you need a second for that?" And I'll be, "Oh yeah, yeah, okay."
Mhm.
So I'm learning. I've
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah.
I'm learning a new skill, how to
Mhm.
run a business meeting,
Mhm.
and I do it once a month, and it is service. It's a way for me to give back. It's
Mhm.
another way for me to give back. So I'm glad I do it, and it did make me feel part of the group. It
Mhm.
did. It did make me feel like that's my, and it is my home group. I feel so close to those women. If I didn't see them every morning at 6 o'clock,
Mhm.
I really don't know what I do.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's connection, and
Mhm.
and it's the same women,
Mhm.
and we meet every morning.
Mhm.
It's great.
What has been your biggest, or what have you learned overall, throughout your journey? What would you say is like some big lessons, that you've taken away?
Well, that there's always hope.
Mhm.
There's always hope that recovery is possible,
Mhm.
that you can get recovery from an eating disorder.
Mhm.
Um, I think, you know, when I, before I knew about recovery, I didn't I couldn't see what that could look like. I
Yeah.
couldn't see that there could be a time in my life where I could find a sense of peace. And with food,
Mhm.
I feel like I have food freedom now. Like I can, I don't focus on it. it's not my main thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not my main focus of topic anymore. It used to be, that's like all like, what am I going to eat next? What am I not going to eat? What it is? It was just always constant, and even getting groceries was like this big ordeal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not anymore. It's just get what you need
Mm-hmm.
and then leave.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
And these are the takeaways that I've gotten from recovery, is that
Mm-hmm.
you can have that. You can have that recovery. I wasn't quite sure. I remember thinking 12-step group for eating disorder.
Yeah.
How's that supposed to work? Meetings?
Yeah.
How is that going to work for me?
Yeah.
And
You were
but it
skeptical.
does. I was
You were
skeptical,
skeptical
at
at
first. I
first
was like,
about.
at first I was like, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go because I have nowhere else to go.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what else to do. But it's amazing
Mm-hmm.
that it works.
Yeah.
The program works.
You never
if do
imagined
it.
ever before that you'd be going to like a 12-step meeting?
No.
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 Uh-huh.
No. And I'm glad I do, because
Mhm.
now I'm not isolated. I
Mhm.
do have so many good connections and friends and people that I love and that love me, and I have I feel like I have a purpose now,
Mhm.
to be able to help others in
Mhm.
this way, and I do. And I'm glad for that.
Mhm. Are there any other outlets you have, like healing outlets, like techniques you might use?
Well, I meditate.
Mhm.
I do meditate. I actually I go to another meeting that's actually a meditation meeting,
Mhm.
and they have 10 minutes of meditation in the middle of it. So I love to go to that one, because then I get that 10 minutes of meditation. Meditation's always been very important to me.
Mhm.
It's one thing that has helped me find, been able to accept life on life's terms.
Mhm. Mhm.
What like I said, my life isn't perfect, so there's a lot of things that go on the around me, but I'm still able to know that I can focus in on the present moment. I don't need to really be sitting in the future and worrying about what happened yesterday and things like that. Meditation helps bring me centered,
Mhm.
to where I am. If I don't meditate, I tend to overthink a lot more,
Yeah.
and that's never good for me.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. What does the future look like for Antonia?
The future.
Mhm.
Well, the future, it's funny. I try not to go into the future too
Mhm.
much, but one thing I do hope to do at one point at Schrank's Clubhouse
Mhm.
is to, one of the tools that I've used is the intuitive eating book,
Mhm.
handbook. And I've done that handbook on my own to learn how to eat more intuitively, and to eat, you know, and it's really helped me find, let go of old ideas of diet patterns and needing to diet and things
Mhm.
like that,
Mhm.
and focusing in on just what your basic need is.
Mhm.
And I would like to one day have a group of women that we get together and do the book together.
Yeah.
That to me,
The intuitive eating.
intuitive eating
Book.
handbook, like an intuitive eating handbook
Mhm.
support group, where we could do the book together and support each other through it.
Mhm.
Because I think that that would be really beneficial for others and for
Mhm.
me too. Because doing the handbook on your own is one thing, but I
Mhm.
just think connection, what I've learned from the 12-step group is connection is where it really is. When you have the connection with somebody else.
That's where healing could really, really like be in its full
Exactly.
effect. Yeah,
Exactly.
with community, with people, with uh, a tribe, so to speak.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, for sure. What? And this will probably be the last question. Um, what advice, words would you give to anybody who might be thinking about reaching out for help? Maybe somebody who understands that they're struggling with an eating disorder, or what resources would you give to somebody who might not know where to go?
I would suggest that if somebody was thinking that they were dealing with an eating disorder, that they talk about it, first of all, with somebody, with either a doctor, or a friend, a counselor. Us at Eating Disorders Anonymous also believe in getting outside help too, right? So, I mean, I have a therapist, I have a psychiatrist, I've got friends, I've got peer support people in my life. It's important to have a network of people. So, reaching out and talking about it is important. And then finding a support group that will work for you. The support group that I go to focuses on balance, and not counting. There's different groups out there, but looking to find what fits for you. What makes you feel supported.
Yeah.
Is important. There is, the National Eating Disorder Hotline that will also have like more resources and stuff like that too.
For sure. So it's there's these resources, but it's also finding what helps you, what works for you the best.
Yes,
Yeah.
whether it be, a therapist. And it's also important, like if you're looking for a therapist, look for somebody that specializes in
Yeah.
eating disorders. Because if you find somebody that doesn't,
Yeah.
then you're going to be, that's where I was at the beginning. I had a therapist, and she did not know anything about eating disorders. She didn't know where to send me. She didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She was absolutely no help at all.
Yeah.
I ended up finding another one. So it's really important to find people that have the knowledge. If you wherever you end up going.
For sure. Oh yeah. I appreciate you talking to us. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. I hope that your story can reach out to other people and help them in any way, shape, or form that it can. And I'm just very grateful to be here with you and to interview you and to ask you some questions.
Thank you.
But thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. That's going to be it for another episode of Better Together. We hope you enjoyed our conversation today. If you like what we're doing and you want to see more, subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below. We'd love to hear your feedback. We hope to see you again for the next episode. And until then, remember, we're always better together.